Texans are open to trading the number 2 pick. Of course they are. This makes perfect sense. Pat McAfee with us today. Look, this makes a ton of sense to me. The idea that the Texans, up until now, people thought it was just a given. Like, okay, well, they just take CJ Stroud at 2. That's not the case. If you're the Texans, right, and you're a terrible-ass franchise, and you've got nothing going for you, and you're not in love with any of these quarterbacks, if you're not in love with CJ Stroud, if you're not in love with Will Levis, you don't want to reach for Anthony Richardson, why wouldn't you trade, go back, get a high-quality defensive player or whoever you want, and then next year, you could look at a much better class with Caleb Williams, the cat from North Carolina, Derek May, what's his name? Derek May, I think. I mean, the quarterback class next year is way better. So it makes perfect sense to me. And you're bringing in DeMeco Ryans. So DeMeco Ryans is your head coach. DeMeco Ryans is not an offensive guru. DeMeco Ryans probably is looking at these guys like, man, I would much rather solidify my defense, solidify all that, see what we have going on, and then go get my franchise quarterback and someone like Caleb Williams.
Pac-Man has the last question for you here, Rap.
Rap, the general manager for the Texans have came out and said he's open and willing to seek trade for the number 2 pick. What does this mean to us as the people? Does this mean that the guy that he liked is not going to be there? Does it mean that he is testing the waters? I just don't understand why come out and publicly and say it. Doesn't that rattle the fans or something?
No. I think, good question. That's a good question for Pac-Man. I would say the reason he comes out and says it is because he wants offers. So I think he comes out and says it. He's just so people now know, like, hey, shit, if we want to move up, we can. If they're not in love with it, then we could probably move up, get a player, whatever. He wants it. Is the reason he would put it out there. That's the answer. Is that there's no one that he's like in love with there at 2. So they're cool with moving back. If I'm the fans, I love this kind of talk. If I'm the fans, I think that it's better for the fans because now the fans know, okay, we're playing for the future here. We're trying to stack picks. We have some strategy behind this. We're not just going to sit there. The last thing you want as a fan is for your front office, especially in the NFL, is for your front office to just not do anything. Like, option A, I want a front office, I want a GM who's playing, chess. He's thinking of every move. He's exhausting every possibility to ensure the most value for me, the fan. What I don't want is a guy who's just like, all right, we have the number 2 draft. See y'all on draft day. We'll just look at Mel Kiper's big board and go from there. Like, you don't want that. So if he's exhausting his possibilities and saying, let's see what the offers are. Like, you ever played Madden or NBA 2K and you go to the trade block and you see the offers, you just see what's out there, and you may not even do it. You may stay at 2. I think the Texans will either trade out, which I don't really see a trade partner for them, but I think they'll either trade out or I think they'll take a defensive player. I think they'll either take Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, or Tyree Wilson. I think that's his name. So from Texas Tech, they're going to take one of those 3 players. I will guarantee that if they are at 2, they take one of those 3 players.
Good question. I was slightly surprised by this yesterday because I think most people believe the Texans are going to take a quarterback at 2, and then I know we discussed this before, but there's all these rumors like, well, maybe they just take a position player and they take a quarterback later. Still seems far-fetched to me, but that is kind of the rumor. And so, basically what the Texans did was kind of lean into the rumor and go, we'll accept all phone calls. Because you don't know, what if now, would the Colts trade in the division? Would they and the Texans and Colts do a deal? Like, that seems hard.
No, but also, why would the Colts? So the fans have a hard time with the draft because there's so many unknowns, and people kind of mess this up. Like, the whole idea, like the first thing we heard that there were going to be a quarterback taken 1, 2, 3, and 4 was insane, right? Like that report is crazy, but it's just the most beautified thing. The idea of franchise quarterback, boom, take him. Oh, there's a first round graded quarterback. You don't have a quarterback, take him. Like, there's a chance that they don't like these guys. There's a chance that CJ Stroud isn't worth of a second overall pick. There's a chance. I mean, we just saw that with like the Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, that whole debacle. You know, like just because you have a guy, you don't have a quarterback, and you have a high pick, doesn't mean you have to take a quarterback. So it doesn't surprise me at all that the Texans are looking at this draft class and going, you know what? This doesn't seem right. Like, this doesn't fit. They may not think these guys are good enough. There are defensive players who grade out really high. I mean, Jalen Carter and Will Anderson grade out very high. So for a defensive-minded coach, for a team with no talent, like I'm not shocked at all.
To imagine, but maybe the Raiders, or I have no idea. Someone in the
Hey, I'm viewing that right? There's no way the Texans are going to trade with the Colts, right?
Why would the Colts trade up? The only reason the Colts would trade up is if the Colts think that the Texans are going to take the exact same player. So if the Colts are like, we want Will Levis, and we know the Texans are either going to take CJ Stroud or Will Anderson, then why would they trade up? So they would have to know that the Texans are going to take Will Levis in order to for a reason to trade up. If I was the Texans and I wanted to do that, I may leak that Will Levis is the highest, or whoever the Colts want. I'm just saying Will Levis. But I would probably leak that whoever I thought their top graded quarterback is, that we're taking. If I wanted to trade like with the Colts. But I don't think it makes sense for the Colts or the Texans to do that, to swap 2 and 3. So I don't know about that one.
For us to go get a franchise quarterback?
I would be stunned. I would be very
Schrag, who had the best mock last year.
And then have to face him twice a year?
Yeah. If he's a guy, I mean, Schrag's put it out there, but that's why I thought, like, oh, so we're getting a third quarterback because we all assumed that Houston was going to take a quarterback.
I can't stand, or 4, not 3, 4. Because the reason I said 3 is because Arizona's not taking a quarterback. So if Indianapolis likes Stroud, right? Like, that Arizona's not at 3. So why would you move up to 2? See what I'm saying?
Then you said we all kind of understand that they're going to take quarterback. That has kind of changed over like the last week or so.
Big time.
It kind of has. What do you still think they're taking a QB though?
I do.
I don't think so.
But either all these rumors have substance and something got out of the Texans building, and everyone in the world now knows that they're going to take Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, whoever the top defensive player is, or, I mean, the Texans are pretty buttoned up. There's not a lot of stuff that leaks there, and that's kind of part of the problem is I'm like, everyone knows the Texans' game plan.
I guarantee you CJ Stroud does not go 2. 100%.
And, like, that doesn't sound like that.
Even if the Colts moved up from 4 to 2, they ain't taking CJ Stroud.
So maybe it's out on purpose, but then, like, what's the actual, maybe to make sure the Colts are like, cool, we can just sit here and we'll just wait for a quarterback and then one will be like, but this is why the draft is the greatest, because one of those answers is true, and I have no idea which.
And that's why the draft's spectacular. Thursday, April 20th.
If you're the Colts, all right, let's talk from the Colts now. If you're the Colts, and let's say you have a coin toss between Stroud and Levis, because Bryce Young's going 1. So I would rather sit back and say, if the Texans take one of them, I'll take the other one, and sit back and let it happen. That's it. I would rather that than what it would take to trade from 4 to 2 to take one of the guys first. Now, if what could throw a wrinkle in that is if Arizona traded out of 3. If Houston takes Stroud and then blank team Seattle trades up to 3 to take Levis, then Indy could be like, uh-oh, this ain't good. But what are the chances that Houston takes a quarterback or trades out to a team that takes a quarterback, and Arizona trades out to a team that takes a quarterback? Like, to me, that's a lot happening for the Colts to get screwed. So if I was the Colts, I would just chill. I would sit back. I would not do that. But I think Houston, I don't think that they will. Here's my thoughts on the Texans specifically. I don't think there's a team that will trade to 2. That will take a quarterback or needs a quarterback or wants one of these guys enough to trade up to 2. Because Seattle, they can sit back as well. Seattle, if they want a quarterback, they don't have to move from 5 to go get one. It just does, the stars don't align, I don't think, for the Texans to find a trade partner to get to 2. So I think the Texans end up taking a defensive player. I think the Cardinals end up taking a defensive player. I think the Colts end up taking Levis at 4, and then we go from there. That's how I see the top 4 playing out. If I was betting right now, I would go Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Will Levis. That's my top 4.
27th, live right here. YouTube.com/The Pat McAfee Show will be electrifying. We got big surprises, big guests. Ian will be doing his thing on the network. Ian, don't be tipping pick.
Okay, I guess we're moving on to that. So let me know in the comments below what you think, guys. Are the Texans going to make their pick? Are they going to pick a quarterback? Are they going to trade it? Are they going to pick a defensive player? Should the Colts move up? Let me know what should happen with that number 2 pick. Or if you care less about what the Texans or the Colts are going to do, tell me what you think are your top 4. Not who you not the top 4 players. Tell me who you think the top 4 draft picks are going to be in order. What is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4? Let me know in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen.